go on further about what are the different types of brands that people use. If you're in a startup, typically startups need one of five kinds of skills. You're either going to be the visionary, you're the person who knows the customer better than anybody else. Maybe you're the chainsaw, meaning leadership requires different kinds of skills, and some of those skills are you really need that guy who can kick everybody and make them go. And part of my language, but quite frankly, to be a good manager, sometimes you just need to be an a-hole. There's just no way around it. Anyway, boy, I hope nobody sees this. The system integrator is that you know how to build an organization. You know how to make things run. Do you think Steve Jobs knew anything about building a company? Do you think Wozniak knew anything about building a company? No, it was Mark Markula, their venture capitalist. He's the one who found the people and helped build the company up. He's the one who knew how to build a company. And the hub is the person who everybody goes to. Anytime you have a group of people, and there are basically a group of people who are coalesced, that they're strong and put together, there's one person that everybody just happens to like. He is the hub. And those people are invaluable because they keep everybody together. They also become the father confessor, meaning anytime somebody has a problem, they go to them. When you think of yourself, what is your core? What is your fastball? What is it that you do better than anyone else? What do you think is your main strength? Work experience is really, really important. If you do not have work experience by the time you have a senior, prepare to have a long work search. The thing is, you really need to get the experience when you're an undergraduate. Whether it's an internship or whatever, just get some level of work experience. The thing about a job is a job comes down to three things. And this is just like the value proposition. And the value proposition for people who hire is simply this. What are your skills? Can you do the job? I knew this wonderful woman in business school, Leslie, who, absolutely charming person, and you would feel fine putting her in charge of people. But if I asked her to do like data analytics, forget it. And she'll even admit it, her quantitative skills just weren't there. And so do you have the technical skills? Do you have a cultural fit? Meaning, do you fit into our organization? And the thing is, there are different personalities. For me, I'm a gunslinger. I'm more valued by small companies than a corporation. Corporations don't like gunslingers. They want people who are going to fall in line. And finally, added value. Are there extra things that you can do that raise you above somebody else? These are the different places you can go look for in terms of trying to find a job. And in effect, these are sort of like the segments that you're looking at. I won't read through these, and even though these apply to engineers, they still apply to pretty much anybody who's looking for a job in a technical field, and there are some statistics that you can look at. Your resume. Your resume should tell a story. That is one of the biggest things I see wrong when I look at people's resumes. Do you tell a story? Can you quantify your achievement in some way? And in effect, every entry in your resume, what it should do in terms of experience is what does it do and what kind of impact did it make? This is the header off of my resume. Now, one thing you can notice is sometimes I write PhD and sometimes I write PhD MBA. Why? Because it might be a technical position. If it's a technical position, they don't want to see MBA. So I put it off there and I put it back on. The thing is, in the very beginning in the executive profile, guess what? Here's my chance to tell the story. Here's my pitch of who I am. uniquely skilled, innovative leader in technology-driven enterprises with a reputation for creating growth through innovation and execution. What does that read like? Right, a positioning statement. In their mind, I've just positioned myself. Over 15 years of experience. Okay, here's a little trick for those of you who might be older. I have more than 15 years of experience in the field. I have more like 30. Why do I not write 30? For the simple reason, there is ageism. When you see, and I know because I've been on the other side of the fence, when you see 30, you think, oh, this guy's older, he may not have enough energy, and oh my God, he's probably going to ask for a lot of money, I don't know if I want to hire this kind of guy. And even though it's illegal, you can never prove it. But the thing is, I'm not lying. It is over 15 years. But the thing about 15 is what it says to them is you're well seasoned, but you're not too old. And so I list out all my companies and company sizes in different industries. And now actually I can put academia on there. And so what I do is I list out, these are the skills that I have. And in effect, what I've done is set up my positioning. And what that positioning is based off of is what is my brand. Again, the two play off each other. In terms of your resume, and when you talk about your experience, think about the key points you want to make. What I do under my title is I have a sentence, and that sentence tells them a story about what that position was. I created a technology leadership position. And so how did I create technology leadership? What is it? And basically, what did you do here? I spearheaded process development and capital equipment manufacturing of an ultrasonic-based smart electroplating system. Anytime you talk about capital equipment, people are interested in standards and things like that. So, I'm throwing out acronyms. Not only that, but I tell them, what is it that I did? Well, basically, my innovations reduced costs by 60% over a 2-year period. It also triggered, I sold myself short. I actually raised $5.9 million. I'm modest. Anyway, actually, this is not the time to be modest on your resume. And not only that, I formed a bunch of partnerships all over the world, and I coordinated global activities. Why? I want to make a point to people. We live in a global economy. So I tell them, look, I have done global work. So the thing is, it told the letter. Your cover letter is incredibly important. Why? Because the way job hunts work today is the first thing hiring companies do is the software will basically, looking through keywords and stuff like that, will pull out the resumes that are most relevant to you. And then what they do is that if you make it through that first tier of cuts, they look at your cover letter. Here's your chance to sell yourself. This is basically your elevator pitch. For those of you who are TEM majors, here's your chance to say, why should you hire me? The thing is, for those of you, and this isn't to demean the career office. I mean, those people work very hard and all, and they have your best interest at heart. But guess what? All of you, well, I shouldn't say all of you, but many of you, go to the career office and you say exactly the same thing. And guess what? You all apply for the same jobs. And you all say exactly the same thing. And I was sitting in an interview and I told this kid, if you tell me what the career office told you to say, I will cut you off at the knees right here. Tell me what you think. And it's like, I mean, the poor kid, he didn't know what to do. But anyway, and what your cover letter can just send around is just, in a paragraph, tell them why my skills fit, how do you see yourself fitting into this business, and what added value you bring. You've made your case. And guess what? You've covered all the issues, the primary issues of what they're looking at in terms of hiring. And so here's an example of a paragraph I used. And the thing is, I used tangible results. And I summarized what it is I am. And so what my brand was is I'm the impact player. But there are very few people who can go out into a new situation and just make it happen. In terms of my added value, here's the paragraph I use for that, and you can just read it. And that's that there are very few people who can understand how to blend technology and business together. Some of you might be choosing to go on to graduate school. Your undergraduate degree doesn't necessarily have to be your graduate degree, but you're going to have to show them that you can handle the work. In graduate school, they're pretty much looking at the entire package of you. Once again, how do you handle the course of study? How are you going to fit into this community? And what's your upside potential? That's what they're interested in. Are you a Stanford man? Are you a Harvard man? Oh, I never told you this joke. Okay. How many Stanford, or if I did tell you this joke, excuse me, but I just love this joke. How many Stanford graduates does it take to screw in a light bulb? One. He holds it and the world revolves around him. I love that joke. Anyway, the thing is, if you're looking at underserved majors or whatever, or if you're a legacy that your parents went there, you can get special consideration. They do that. And I've known some students who I thought, wow, he doesn't deserve to go there, but his parents did. And plus they gave him a lot of money. Yes, you can buy your way in. Hey, do you think all those Bushes made it into the Ivy League based on their talents? Anyway, the thing is, the concepts are exactly the same. The thing you have to be careful about is your grades count. Basically, your grades are kind of like a mandatory requirement, so don't loaf. Recommendation letters and your personal statement go to cultural fit. And the thing is, your added value, you can communicate through your personal statement, what it is that's unique about you. And that's the thing. When I was applying to business school, I thought I could talk about my credentials as a mid-level manager, and guess what? I'm going to be the same as everybody else. I haven't differentiated myself. So what did I say? I went in there and just said, because of my ability to evolve technology, if I had business schools, he said, you have lots of financiers, you have lots of great managers. I said, but how many people do you have can change the world and change the world through industry? Who are going to be your Steve Jobs, your Scott McNeelys, your Larry Ellisons? And I said, that was me. Now, the thing for me is I'm not talented enough, or I'm among the gods, or I'm pretty much a no-brainer. So guess what? If I'm competing against everyone else, I have to think in terms of how am I going to differentiate myself. And so what is this about? It's still all about branding. First, differentiation and relevance. You want to create brand strength, and then you want to create brand stature. And so thinking about this differentiation is first and foremost the most critical thing. In terms of interviewing, can you elevator pitch your career or the path you're going on? Meaning, in a minute or less, can you tell me who you are? How do you answer negative questions? One of the biggest negative questions is, what's your biggest weakness? And they tell you, well, what you should do with this question is turn your weakness into a strength. Okay, that's great. How the hell do you do it? And here's an example. For example, I once went through a stage where I went through 5 straight interviews and I lost all 5 jobs. And I'm wondering, what the hell am I doing wrong? And then I talked to a friend of mine who's actually a headhunter, and she said to me, Steve, you're a consummate professional. You go in there, you interview well, you're articulate, you're very smart. He said, your problem is you come across as very cold. People do not connect with you. When you hire someone, you personally want to feel good about them, and with you, they feel somewhat separated and standoffish. And so The next job interview I went into, I realized I have to create some level of intimacy or understanding with them. And so they asked me, what's your biggest weakness? And I said, well, this isn't a weakness, but it's a difference, and it's a difference I recognize. That's the thing. If there's something that you want to explain about you, here's your chance. And so when they asked me, what's my biggest weakness? I said, I recognize this as an issue, but not necessarily a weakness. It's basically a difference. When people hire executives, they want type A personalities. They want the big, booming, boisterous guy who's going to go in there and scream at people and kick asses. And I said, I'm not that personality. However, if you want a manager who's focused on leadership, meaning getting everyone involved, making everybody feel they're part of the process, if you want a manager who is going to believe that he is working as a part of service and stewardship towards the company, if you want a manager who is totally dedicated and is incredibly driven to want to be the smartest guy in the room, meaning nobody is going to know about the challenges of this company more than me. If you want somebody who likes to talk to people, who pulls out their ideas, who's more Socratic about challenging their assumptions and challenging their thinking, I said, then I'm the manager that you want. But if you want the screaming, high, out of control energy guy, no, I'm not that. Now notice, I didn't pay a compliment to the other one of saying that they're high energy and I'm not. I threw in out of control. But this is how you go about answering negative questions, meaning here's your chance to address an issue that you think might be about them. The thing is, in an interview, if you don't know the answer to something, say so. But talk about how you're going to find the answer. They realize you're not going to know everything, but to sit there and go, I don't know. You know, what impression does that make? A gal interviewed with me. I asked her a question about, she's a mechanical engineer. I asked her about stress of materials. She didn't know. She said, well, I don't know the answer, but what I remember is this is how I would go about solving it. And she went through the steps of like what books she would use and the things she would look up and how she would go about doing it. To me, that was just as valuable as knowing the answer. For the simple reason, when you work in innovative fields, nobody knows the answer. You want people who can go out and find the answer, the people who are resourceful. The thing is, think about the interesting things that you've done, because those are points of stories. Those add meat to what you say. And most of all, be prepared to answer the question, why should I hire you? It's just like asking, well, why should I buy your product? Guess what? You are the product. These are the questions you should ask yourself about your career. Yeah, I know this video is stretching out really long, and especially this one because there's just so many stories involved. But a friend of mine who worked for HP got laid off by HP 5 times. And he didn't mind getting laid off actually that much, but the 5th time was like too much. He said, I'm getting off this merry-go-round. They don't know what they're doing. He actually worked in software. But the way he looked at it is every time they laid him off, he got to keep keep the severance package. So he looked at it as his inconvenience fee. And they would hire him back at a raise. But anyway, the piece of advice he gave to me, and this is advice that people actually in their 50s really need to know who work in corporate structures. And that's you have all these people in their 50s who believe that their seniority matters more than anything else. They get soft, and then they get laid off, and then they find out they can't get another job in what they were doing. Because the thing is, the value of your job is to that company. But when you go out there, your skills may not be generic enough that a different company is going to pay the same money as the other company did. The thing is, you could be the best janitor on earth, and you could stay at a place for 30 years and your salary can keep shooting up. But in the end, you're still a janitor. Nobody's going to pay $100,000 a year for a janitor. That's just reality. And so some of these people get laid off and they complain about getting replaced by younger kids. But you have to look at the skill level. And so this is the piece of advice he gave me, which I think is really strong, and I give to you. Every year on your job, and this is around performance review time, ask yourself one question. The question is, did I learn anything this past year? If the answer is no, then it's time for you to start thinking about moving on and doing something else. Because guess what? You've stagnated and you're not growing. As long as you keep growing, guess what? There's always a place for you somewhere. The moment you start stagnating is when you start becoming a stable target. And that target is the one that they whack. And so that is my career advice to you. The thing is, when you move from one job to another, think hard about not only just money. When you're young, it's always about money. But think about, where do you want to be in the long term? You could sacrifice something for the long term by doing something in the short term, like acquiring certain skills that you know that you're going to need further on down the line. And so, that should have tipped me off that this was the last slide. The slide that says the last word. Anyway, so what you've seen is how you can go out and market yourself. And so I put this together specifically for people who are going to go out there into the work world and understand how you can apply this class towards making you a better product and subsequently make it a lot easier for you to be able to go take care of yourself out